Across the globe, a ghostly echo of a forgotten epoch persists. In Peru, the Nazca Lines form colossal figures, perfectly drawn, yet fully visible only from the sky, who were their intended audience. In Iraq, the 2,000-year-old Baghdad Battery, a simple clay pot with copper and iron, suggests the shocking possibility of ancient electricity. These out-of-place artifacts defy their historical context, presenting us with a profound paradox. They are whispers of a past far more advanced and mysterious than our textbooks admit, forcing us to question whether our history is incomplete or deliberately rewritten. Hidden on a quiet hilltop in the Indian state of Madhya Pradesh stands one of humanity's most enduring enigmas, the Great Stupa of Sanchi. At first glance, it appears to be a simple mound of stone, serene and symmetrical. Yet beneath its calm surface lies a mystery that has puzzled historians, architects, and archaeologists for more than 2 millennia. How could builders from over 200-300 years ago, armed with primitive tools, construct a monument so geometrically precise, structurally flawless, and spiritually profound that it still stands today, virtually unchanged? What do you think about this mystery? Is the Great Stupa of Sanchi merely a religious monument, or evidence that ancient people once possessed engineering knowledge far beyond their time? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Built during the reign of Emperor Ashoka the Great in the 3rd century BCE, the Sanchi Stupa was meant to enshrine relics of the Buddha, a sacred structure symbolizing enlightenment and the universe itself. It was originally a modest brick dome, but centuries later, it was expanded with massive blocks of stone, each carved, polished, and fitted with surgical precision. Unlike other monuments of its era, the stupa wasn't designed for glory or power. It was designed to last, to mirror eternity, and somehow it has. The structure withstood thousands of monsoons, heat waves, and even periods of abandonment, surviving where empires have long crumbled into dust. But the secret of its endurance lies not only in faith, it lies in its engineering. The Great Stupa's construction reveals a level of mastery that still defies modern understanding. Its massive dome is composed of stone blocks interlocked without the use of mortar. These blocks are so perfectly fitted that even a razor blade cannot slide between them. The precision of the curvature, a near-perfect hemisphere, required mathematical and architectural knowledge that, according to mainstream history, should not have existed in India during the 3rd century BCE. Yet the builders of Sanchi somehow achieved it. To shape a structure of this size, 36 meters in diameter and 16 meters tall, would demand accurate knowledge of geometry, weight distribution, and material strength. There are no visible signs of measurement errors or misalignments. The weight of the dome, instead of crushing itself inward, is distributed evenly through the circular base, suggesting a deep understanding of load-bearing principles centuries before such terms existed. Some modern architects who studied the stupa's form have pointed out that its geometric balance is so refined that it could be analyzed using modern structural mechanics, and it would still pass with remarkable stability. The very material of the stupa, sandstone and brick, was sourced from miles away. Each block was transported up the hill without wheels or cranes. No traces of large scaffolding or pulley systems have been found, suggesting that ancient Indian engineers had alternative lifting methods, possibly leveraging counterweights or wooden frameworks that have since decayed. The method of cutting and smoothing these stones remains equally perplexing. Some surfaces show signs of abrasion and polishing techniques similar to those found in Egyptian monuments. The question arises, did ancient civilizations share lost knowledge of stone shaping? What's even more remarkable is that despite being exposed for over 2,000 years, the surface of the Sanchi stones shows minimal erosion. Scientists studying the material believe the builders treated the stones with natural resins or oils to enhance durability, an early form of weatherproofing that predates modern chemistry by millennia. Every curve and angle in Sanchi Stupa serves both spiritual and structural purpose. The hemisphere represents the cosmic dome of heaven. The central mast, or yasti, symbolizes the axis of the world, connecting Earth and the divine. Around it are three circular discs, chatras, denoting the three jewels of Buddhism: the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Yet beyond symbolism lies astonishing accuracy. The stupa is aligned with the cardinal directions, with its four ornate gateways, Taranas precisely oriented toward north, southeast, and west. Modern researchers using digital scanning have confirmed that these alignments are within 1 degree of perfect accuracy, a feat nearly impossible without astronomical instruments. It suggests that the builders not only understood geometry, but also the movement of celestial bodies, implying a sophisticated link between architecture and astronomy centuries before the development of formal observatories. Each of the four gateways added during the 1st century BCE is carved with stories from the Buddha's life, yet none depict the Buddha himself. Instead, his presence is shown through symbols: a footprint, a tree, or an empty throne. From an engineering perspective, these gates are marvels of stonework. Standing over 8 meters tall, the massive horizontal beams are perfectly balanced atop slender columns without any iron reinforcements. Their stability, over 2 millennia, remains an architectural mystery. How did the builders calculate the exact center of gravity? How did they carve such intricate reliefs, some showing hundreds of human and animal figures, while ensuring the entire structure stayed balanced? Some archaeologists speculate that the artisans used early forms of load modeling, possibly observing the behavior of smaller wooden prototypes before replicating them in stone. Others propose that a lost mathematical tradition guided their proportions, a geometry of sacred ratios now forgotten. Visitors to the Sanchi Stupa often describe an inexplicable sense of peace, as if the monument itself radiates calm energy. In recent decades, some researchers have explored whether the hemispherical design could amplify natural earth vibrations, similar to how domes in other ancient sites, such as the Pantheon in Rome or Borobudur in Indonesia, resonate with specific frequencies. If this hypothesis is true, it would mean the builders intentionally crafted a structure that interacts with the Earth's electromagnetic field, using shape and symmetry to harmonize with natural energy, a concept rediscovered only in modern architecture. This idea aligns with ancient Indian texts like the Vastu Shastra, which describe how buildings can influence energy and consciousness through geometry and orientation. Perhaps the stupa was not merely a monument, but a resonant machine of meditation designed to center the human spirit in alignment with the cosmos. The influence of Sanchi spread far beyond India. Its domed design became the prototype for Buddhist stupas across Asia, from Sri Lanka to Borobudur and China. Strangely, the same hemispherical form appears in non-Buddhist civilizations, as well in Etruscan tombs, Celtic towers, and South American ceremonial mounds. No one knows why. Only Sanchi remains a silent witness, defying time and human understanding. When rediscovered in the 19th century, the Great Stupa of Sanchi remained almost perfectly intact after more than 1,000 years of abandonment, something even modern engineering struggles to explain. Some believe it was divinely protected, others that it preserved through lost techniques. Yet above all, Sanchi is a bridge between engineering art and spirituality, proving that true strength lies in harmony between humanity and the universe. Standing before the great stupa of Sanchi, one cannot help but wonder, how did ancient people with only stone tools create geometry so perfect it challenges modern engineers? Perhaps Sanchi is not a ruin, but a reminder that long ago there existed a wisdom that understood the foundation of engineering is not power, but harmony and understanding. In the heart of Antarctica's frozen desert, where no tree grows and no sound breaks the eternal silence, something extraordinary happens. From the ghostly white face of Taylor Glacier, a stream of deep crimson bursts forth as if the ice itself were bleeding. This haunting phenomenon, known as the Blood Falls, has defied logic for over a century. Beneath temperatures colder than any place on Earth, where sunlight barely touches the ground, flows a liquid red as rust and alive with secrets older than humanity itself. Scientists once believed it was lifeless, a chemical illusion carved by time. But what they discovered beneath the ice would rewrite everything we thought we knew about survival evolution and the very definition of life itself. Do you think this blood-red glacier could hold clues to life beyond Earth? Share your thoughts in the comments below. When the British geologist Griffith Taylor first saw it in 1911, he assumed the vivid red color came from algae. The idea seemed logical after all red algae were known to tint snow in other polar regions. But the more scientists studied it, the more the mystery deepened. Under temperatures reaching 20 degrees C and almost total absence of sunlight, no algae could possibly survive. Decades later, advanced chemical analyses finally revealed the culprit. The water seeping from the glacier was loaded with iron-rich salts. When exposed to oxygen, these ions oxidized, creating the rusty crimson color not unlike the iron in our own blood. Yet even after this discovery, the question remained, where did this liquid water come from? Beneath the glacier lies an ancient subglacial network, a hidden lake and system of brine channels sealed under hundreds of meters of ice. The water there is so salty that it cannot freeze even in the most extreme Antarctic cold. But what truly astonished scientists was not the chemistry. It was the biology hiding within. In 2015, researchers from the University of Alaska Fairbanks and the University of Colorado Boulder drilled into the glacier and extracted samples of the brine. What they found was nothing short of astonishing, a thriving community of microorganisms living completely isolated from the outside world. No sunlight, no oxygen, no fresh nutrients. These microbes had been trapped beneath the glacier for over 1.5 million years, surviving in conditions that would instantly kill most known forms of life. Instead of photosynthesis, these microscopic survivors evolved a radically different survival mechanism: chemotrophy. They drew energy not from light, but from the chemical reactions between iron and sulfur compounds in their environment. Essentially, they breathe iron and feed on minerals, producing life-sustaining energy in a world of darkness and ice. This form of metabolism is so rare and ancient that it might resemble how some of Earth's earliest life forms functioned billions of years ago before the atmosphere contained oxygen. To study them, scientists had to melt tiny samples of the frozen brine in sterile chambers, careful not to kill the fragile cells. Under the microscope, the microorganisms appeared ghostly and translucent, adapted to survive under high pressure and extreme salinity. They represented a living time capsule of ancient Earth, a glimpse into the era when life was still learning to adapt to a hostile planet. The discovery of microbial life in Blood Falls has profound implications that reach far beyond Antarctica. It challenges the very definition of what it means for a planet to be habitable. If life can exist in a lightless, oxygen-free, hypersaline pocket, buried under kilometers of ice, then why not beneath the frozen crusts of other worlds? Astrobiologists immediately drew parallels to Europa, one of Jupiter's moons, and Enceladus, a moon of Saturn, both believed to hide vast subsurface oceans beneath their icy shells. These environments, like the brine beneath Taylor Glacier, may harbor alien microbes feeding on chemical energy instead of sunlight. The Blood Falls, in this sense, acts as a natural laboratory for astrobiology, offering clues about how life might endure on other planets. It proves that biology can flourish not only in the Goldilocks zone of warmth and light, but even in the silent darkness of a frozen abyss. NASA researchers have even studied the site as an analog for future missions. Instruments designed to detect biosignatures on Mars or Europa are tested against the microbial samples from blood falls because their chemical fingerprints iron oxidation, sulfur metabolism, trace organics could mirror what alien life might look like. Chemical analyses suggest that the brine feeding the blood falls could be the remnant of an ancient saltwater sea that once covered East Antarctica millions of years ago. As glaciers advanced, this sea became trapped underground, cut off from sunlight and surface life. Over millennia, the water concentrated its salts and metals, creating a chemical environment completely unlike anything at the surface. Within this isolation, evolution took its own course. The microbial ecosystem became self-sustaining, recycling limited nutrients over geological time. Iron oxidation provided energy, sulfur compounds acted as electron donors, and trace carbon was endlessly reused. It is a perfect demonstration of how life finds balance even when all normal pathways are closed, a hidden biosphere that has persisted since long before humans walked the Earth. The existence of these microbes forces scientists to reconsider one of biology's oldest assumptions, that sunlight and oxygen are essential for complex ecosystems. The Blood Falls reveals a different truth, that life is not fragile but profoundly adaptable. It can thrive without warmth, light, or air. It can rewrite the rules of metabolism to fit the harshest environments. Philosophically, this discovery redefines how we perceive life itself. It suggests that the universe may be filled with invisible ecosystems hidden in ice rock or even the clouds of gas giants. Earth's own blood-red glacier becomes a message from nature, proof that vitality can bloom even in silence and darkness. Perhaps the most haunting image of all is that of the Blood Falls itself, perpetually oozing from the heart of the glacier. It never freezes entirely because the brine's salt content depresses its freezing point to well below zero. Even in the coldest winters, a trickle continues to seep out, slow, steady red as rust, as if the glacier itself were bleeding. To those who have seen it in person, it is both beautiful and unsettling, a reminder that beneath the frozen mask of Antarctica, the planet still breathes. The glacier's blood is not merely water, it is the memory of an ancient ocean, the signature of an unbroken cycle of chemistry and life that has persisted for ages. Despite decades of study, the Blood Falls still keeps its deepest secrets. No one knows precisely how the subglacial channels formed or how vast they truly are. No one knows if more hidden lakes, perhaps filled with unknown microbes, lie deeper still. Some researchers believe that within these frozen labyrinths may dwell entire microbial communities that have evolved independently for millions of years, Earth's own alien worlds, separated from the rest of the biosphere since the dawn of the Ice Age. The mystery of the Blood Falls is thus not only geological or biological, but existential. It asks us to confront one of humanity's oldest questions: what is life, and where else can it exist? Every droplet of red water seeping from that glacier is a whisper from the deep past, a reminder that life will find a way, even when the world above has forgotten it. Hidden within the red sandstone cliffs of Utah's Sego Canyon lies one of the most haunting galleries of prehistoric art on Earth. These walls, silent and sunburned, hold hundreds of figures, tall, faceless beings, ghostly silhouettes, and floating shapes that seem to hover between the physical and the ethereal. They are collectively known as the alien carvings of Sego Canyon, and for more than a century, they have defied every scientific attempt to explain who created them, why they were made, and most astonishing of all, how they have survived almost perfectly intact after thousands of years exposed to desert wind and rain. Archaeologists believe the oldest images date back nearly 8,000 years, created long before the pyramids of Egypt or Stonehenge. Yet the walls still glow with deep reds, ochres, and purples, as if the paint was applied only decades ago. The pigments seem to resist time itself. When early explorers first discovered the site in the 19th century, they were stunned by how vibrant and clean the pictographs appeared. Even today, under the blazing Utah sun, the lines remain sharp and clear, the colors unfaded, a mystery that continues to puzzle geologists and material scientists alike. What do you think about the extraordinary durability of the Sego Canyon carvings? Is it simply the result of advanced ancient techniques or a sign of something beyond human understanding? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Ordinary rock art from the same period rarely lasts more than a few centuries before erosion blurs its detail into dust. But in Sego Canyon, the figures still seem almost alive. Some stand more than 2 meters tall, painted or carved into the cliff, with a precision suggesting careful design and long-lost technique. The pigments penetrate deeply into the sandstone, almost as if they had been fused chemically with the rock. Microscopic analysis has revealed mineral traces not commonly used in prehistoric paint. The mixture appears to include hematite manganese oxide and a mysterious binding agent that keeps the colors stable against both heat and moisture. Modern chemists attempting to replicate this effect have failed to produce the same durability. How did ancient artists achieve such chemical resilience with tools that supposedly belonged to the Stone Age? Some researchers propose that the artists might have discovered a natural sealant derived from local plants or clay deposits that acted as a fixative. Others go further, suggesting that they might have known how to heat minerals to specific temperatures to make the pigment bond permanently with the sandstone's silica surface, a process that would require controlled fire and an understanding of chemistry far beyond what is assumed for prehistoric peoples. If this is true, then the creators of Sego Canyon possessed a level of technical sophistication that has vanished from history. They did not merely scratch symbols on stone, they engineered their art to endure the ages, perhaps deliberately ensuring that their message would outlive them by millennia. The images themselves only deepen the mystery. Unlike typical hunter-gatherer art showing animals or daily life, Sego Canyon's walls display elongated human-like forms with large dark eyes and no visible limbs. Some seem to float in the air, others radiate lines from their heads as if emitting light. Many are arranged in ceremonial processions, with smaller figures bowing toward a towering central being. To the modern eye, they resemble depictions of extraterrestrial visitors, tall, slender shapes reminiscent of the gray aliens familiar from modern UFO mythology. But these carvings predate such ideas by thousands of years. Could the resemblance be coincidence? Or are we looking at an ancient attempt to portray something truly extraordinary witnessed by early humans? Sego Canyon is not the work of a single civilization. Archaeologists have identified at least 3 cultural layers of rock art, the oldest Barrier Canyon style, around 2000 BCE, followed by the Fremont culture and later the Ute Indians, whose carvings include horses introduced by Europeans. Each generation added new marks to the same sacred cliffs, suggesting that the place held enduring spiritual or cosmic significance. Perhaps those later peoples sensed the power of the ancient images and sought to align their own beliefs with them. The continuity of worship across thousands of years hints that Sego Canyon was more than an art site. It was a bridge between worlds, where humans reached out to whatever they believed watched them from the skies. Modern dating methods confirm the age of the pigments, but not the method of their creation. No traces of organic binders like animal fat or plant gum, typical of prehistoric paints, have been found. Instead, the pigments seem to have been fused into the stone itself, resistant to acid solvents and even laser cleaning. When conservationists attempted to remove modern graffiti from nearby cliffs, they discovered that the ancient paint could not be dissolved by any safe chemical method. It was literally part of the rock. Some scientists theorize that a microcrystalline transformation occurred perhaps through heating or pressure, converting the surface of the stone into a glassy protective layer. But the temperatures required for such fusion are far beyond what primitive fires could have reached. This leaves a troubling question. How could ancient humans have achieved a material process comparable to modern ceramic glazing without metal tools or furnaces? For those drawn to the idea of ancient extraterrestrial contact, the durability of the Sego Canyon carvings is not merely an accident of chemistry, but a deliberate act, a message preserved for the future. If one wanted to leave a sign for distant descendants or visitors, they argue what better medium than stone, treated to last for eternity. Even skeptics admit that the preservation is extraordinary. Whether through divine inspiration, lost technology, or sheer coincidence of geology, Sego Canyon defies time. The site stands as a physical paradox, art older than recorded history that looks freshly painted, a conversation between past and present that refuses to fade. Visitors often report a strange stillness around the cliffs, a heavy, humming silence. Some describe feeling as though they are being watched by the faceless figures. Electromagnetic readings in the area sometimes show irregular spikes, which spiritualists claim indicate residual energy fields. Scientists attribute these to mineral compositions in the rock, but they too acknowledge that the canyon seems to possess a unique microclimate that protects its art from erosion and microbial decay. Whether mystical or natural, the result is the same. Sego Canyon is one of the few open-air galleries on Earth where the artwork of Stone Age humanity remains nearly untouched by time. Standing before the ancient figures of Sego Canyon, one can feel the weight of millennia etched into the stone. The colors still glow, the faceless eyes still gaze. They have endured time empires and desert winds as if made to last forever. These carvings are not only an archaeological mystery, but also a testament to intelligence, or perhaps something beyond human. Their precision and durability challenge everything we know about ancient craftsmanship. Even after millennia, Sego Canyon continues to speak in colors that will not fade, in figures that will not crumble, and in mysteries that will not die. And as long as those alien eyes stare from the canyon walls, we will keep asking the same question. Did ancient humans create them alone, or were they helped by something not of this earth? Nearly 2,000 years ago, in the great city of Alexandria, the beating heart of ancient knowledge, a man named Claudius Ptolemy changed how humanity saw the earth forever. Long before telescopes, satellites, or even the concept of global navigation existed, Ptolemy drew what he believed was a map of the known world. But what he truly created was something far more mysterious, a mathematical vision of the planet that seemed to transcend the boundaries of his own era. To the casual eye, Ptolemy's Geographia appears as a product of intellectual ambition, a scholar attempting to compile the geography of the known world. Yet when modern scientists and historians examined his formulas, something astonishing emerged. Ptolemy had developed a geometric system of Earth measurement that shouldn't have been possible in the 2nd century AD. His work was not merely descriptive, it was computational. It contained the seeds of what would later become the science of cartography, trigonometry-based navigation, and even modern geographic information systems. Do you believe Ptolemy's advanced mapping formulas came from pure genius or from ancient knowledge that modern history has forgotten? Share your thoughts in the comments below. To understand why Ptolemy's work is so extraordinary, we must imagine the world he lived in. In Ptolemy's time, people could estimate latitude, the north-south position, fairly well by observing the height of the sun or stars above the horizon. But longitude, the east-west coordinate, was a problem that remained unsolved for almost 1600 years. Without precise timekeeping, there was no reliable way to know how far east or west one had traveled. Even in the age of exploration, sailors frequently became lost due to this very issue. Yet Ptolemy's maps drawn during the Roman Empire showed a coherent system of coordinates that suggested he somehow understood the curvature of the Earth and could project it mathematically. He had a grid of latitude and longitude that, while imperfect, mirrored the logic of modern spherical projection. How did he do it? What kind of mind could imagine the geometry of the entire planet at a time when most of the world was still unexplored? In Geographia, Ptolemy laid out not only a list of over 8,000 locations, cities, rivers, mountains, and islands, but also their exact coordinates expressed in degrees of latitude and longitude. The astonishing part is that he built a mathematical formula for transforming the three-dimensional Earth into a two-dimensional map. His coordinate grid was based on spherical trigonometry, a branch of mathematics not formally developed until the Islamic Golden Age centuries later. He treated Earth as a sphere and imagined drawing it on a flat surface through conic projection, a concept that wouldn't reappear until Renaissance cartography. What's even more fascinating is his formula for calculating longitude. Ptolemy realized that since longitude depends on time difference between two locations, one could theoretically determine it if they knew how much earlier or later the sun rose in another part of the world. He linked geography to astronomy, merging two disciplines into one coherent system. For instance, Ptolemy recorded that the time difference between Alexandria and Babylon is 1 hour, which translates to roughly 15 degrees of longitude, a calculation remarkably close to the modern value. For a man with no mechanical clocks, no telescopes, and no global maps, this level of conceptual understanding borders on the impossible. How could a man from the 2nd century achieve this? Some scholars suggest that Ptolemy inherited older maps and measurements from ancient civilizations like the Babylonians, Egyptians, or even earlier seafaring cultures that charted the world's coasts. The Library of Alexandria, where he worked, was said to house scrolls and charts from across the ancient world, possibly including records of navigators who had explored far beyond the Mediterranean. Others propose that Ptolemy built upon the work of Eratosthenes, who had estimated the circumference of the Earth centuries before using only shadows and geometry. Ptolemy took that idea and pushed it further, not just measuring the size of Earth, but mapping its coordinates mathematically. Still, there are anomalies in his work that fuel speculation about a deeper mystery. Certain regions on Ptolemy's map, such as the Far East of Asia and parts of Southern Africa, display a level of accuracy that doesn't match the navigational capabilities of his era. Some even claim that faint outlines of Antarctica or the Americas appear on later copies of his map, suggesting he might have had access to ancient knowledge long since lost. Was Ptolemy, the last inheritor of a forgotten science, the cartographic legacy of an older vanished civilization? Among Ptolemy's most striking achievements was his method for correcting distortions caused by projecting a spherical Earth onto a flat surface. His formulas describe how to compress distances near the poles and stretch them near the equator, the very same principle used in modern map projections like Mercator or Lambda. To do this, he needed to understand not only the Earth's curvature, but also mathematical scaling and ratios. He used proportional geometry, adjusting for the visual shortening that occurs when viewing a curved globe. In essence, Ptolemy was the first person known to grasp the challenge of representing three-dimensional space in two dimensions, an insight that would not be formalized in Europe until first 400 years later. If his formulas are translated into modern mathematical notation, they resemble early forms of trigonometric equations, a staggering realization considering trigonometry itself was still in its infancy during his lifetime. It is no exaggeration to say that Ptolemy's mathematical worldview anticipated the scientific revolution by nearly 2 millennia. His coordinate system laid the groundwork for navigation, astronomy, and global exploration. After the fall of the Roman Empire, geographia vanished from Europe for nearly 1,000 years. During that dark age, the knowledge it contained, the grid of the world, the formulas of longitude, was forgotten. Only in the 15th century did scholars rediscover Ptolemy's manuscripts in Byzantine libraries, sparking a wave of excitement. When the book was translated into Latin and printed in the Renaissance, it reshaped the world once again. The explorers who sailed under Portugal and Spain, including Columbus and Magellan, relied on Ptolemy's coordinate system to plot their routes. Ironically, they were using a 1,300-year-old idea to discover new worlds. Even today, scientists continue to study Ptolemy's methods with awe. His estimates of Earth's circumference were off by only a small margin. His conceptual model of longitude tied to celestial movement remains one of the most visionary intellectual leaps in ancient science. Ptolemy's Geographia raises timeless questions. How could one man without modern tools conceive ideas so advanced? Some believe he inherited Atlantean or pre-Diluvian knowledge, preserved through Egyptian priests and passed down to him. Others see him as a genius far beyond his era. Either way, his formulas defied ancient limits, proving that the human mind can surpass its age and that imagination joined with observation can foresee discoveries millennia ahead. Ptolemy's map was far more than geography. It was a cosmic vision, linking Earth and the heavens through mathematics. He believed the universe followed geometric harmony, seeing the planet as a reflection of that order. In mapping the Earth, he wasn't just measuring distance, he was seeking the hidden structure of the cosmos. Even today, every global grid still follows the path his mind traced nearly 2,000 years ago. In the end, the ancient map of Ptolemy is more than an artifact, it is a question. How could a man with parchment ink and mathematics foresee a system that would define modern cartography centuries before compasses and clocks existed? Was Claudius Ptolemy merely a scholar of Rome, or was he the last voice of a science so ancient, so advanced, that the world had to forget it before rediscovering it again? Deep beneath the shifting sands and dry riverbeds of southern Iraq, a mystery lies hidden that blurs the line between myth and history. For centuries, the name Gilgamesh has echoed through ancient texts as the legendary king of Uruk, part god, part man, a ruler who sought eternal life and became the hero of humanity's oldest epic. Yet in the early 2000s, A startling discovery reignited a question that has haunted scholars for generations. Was Gilgamesh real, and if so, could his tomb still rest beneath the waters of the Euphrates River? Do you think such an underwater tomb could truly have been built over 4,000 years ago? Or is it just another echo of myth woven into the sands of history? Share your thoughts in the comments below, where history and legend still meet. The Epic of Gilgamesh, inscribed on 12 clay tablets over 4,000 years ago, describes a world of divine kings, great floods, and the search for immortality. Within its lines, it tells of a monumental burial. When Gilgamesh died, his people diverted the course of the Euphrates River to lay his body to rest beneath it, a place where the waters meet eternity. For centuries, this was dismissed as a poetic metaphor, a way to elevate the king to godlike status. But when German archaeologists from the University of Munich conducted a satellite and ground radar survey of ancient Uruk in 2003, they found something astonishing. The team, led by Dr. Jörg Fassbinder, detected a vast network of ancient walls, canals, and a central chamber-like structure directly beneath the old course of the Euphrates, precisely where the epic said Gilgamesh was buried. The discovery sent shockwaves through the archaeological world. Could this be the long-lost tomb of the world's first hero? Among all the details surrounding the discovery, one stood out as the most extraordinary. If the tomb truly lies beneath the river, it would mean the Sumerians of 2700 BC had mastered techniques of hydraulic engineering that modern engineers still find breathtaking. Imagine the enormity of such a task in the Bronze Age. To build a tomb beneath a living river, ancient builders would have needed to redirect the mighty Euphrates, one of the largest and most unpredictable rivers in Mesopotamia. They would have constructed temporary channels or embankments, drained a section of the riverbed, built a massive chamber of stone, and mud bricks sealed it, and finally allowed the river to flow back over the tomb. In doing so, they didn't merely bury their king, they merged him with the divine element of life itself, water. The river that nourished their civilization became both his resting place and his eternal monument. Such an act was not just an engineering feat, it was a spiritual masterpiece, a reflection of Sumerian beliefs that water was the boundary between life and the afterlife. By placing Gilgamesh under the river, they believed his spirit would reign forever between the world of the living and the realm of the gods. Excavations and radar scans revealed more than a single tomb. The area beneath the Euphrates showed patterns resembling an ancient city layout, streets, canals, and structures preserved under layers of silt. Some walls appeared unusually straight, even by modern construction standards, suggesting advanced measurement techniques. How did builders over 4 millennia ago achieve such precision? The Sumerians had already astonished historians with inventions like the wheel cuneiform writing and irrigation systems, but the notion of redirecting a major river to construct a subterranean monument pushes their abilities to a new level. Geologists studying the site noted evidence of sediment displacement, implying that the river might indeed have been diverted in ancient times. This aligns eerily well with the description from the epic that the waters were held back, the king laid in his bed of clay, and the flood returned to cover him forever. If true, this could represent one of the earliest and most ambitious feats of hydraulic engineering in human history, predating the great canals of Babylon, the aqueducts of Rome, or the underground tombs of Egypt. Despite the excitement surrounding the 2003 discovery, the story soon vanished from public view. Within months, Iraq descended into chaos and archaeological work halted. The region of Uruk became inaccessible, buried again, this time under layers of war and political turmoil. No official excavation report was ever published, and no artifacts were revealed. Some suggest that findings were suppressed or lost, while others believe international teams quietly removed artifacts for study. The lack of transparency fueled speculation. Did they find something so extraordinary that it defied explanation? Even today, the site remains unexcavated, the radar data locked away, and the Euphrates flows quietly over what might be one of humanity's greatest archaeological secrets. If the tomb of Gilgamesh truly exists beneath the Euphrates, it is not only a marvel of engineering, but a profound symbol of the Sumerian worldview. To them, water was the origin of all life, emerging from the primordial sea, the Abzu. The idea of returning their god-king to the source was both poetic and cosmic. His burial beneath the river would signify a return to creation itself, a cycle of divine kingship that continues eternally. Unlike the Egyptian pyramids towering above the desert to proclaim the power of kings, the Sumerian tomb of Gilgamesh would be hidden silent and sacred beneath the flow of life, an invisible monument known only to the gods. This design defies our modern obsession with permanence. It shows that ancient Sumerians valued harmony with the elements, not domination over them. The river was both tomb and temple, both destroyer and preserver, the perfect eternal guardian. Modern scientists face a dilemma. How can such a tomb be confirmed without destroying the site? Excavating beneath a river, especially one as unstable as the Euphrates, poses enormous technical and ethical challenges. Remote sensing remains the only safe option, yet the data remains incomplete. Every few years, rumors resurface, whispers of recovered artifacts, sealed chambers, even human remains beneath the sands of Uruk. None have been verified. Still, the notion persists that the resting place of Gilgamesh is real, waiting for the day humanity is ready technologically and spiritually to uncover it. Whether or not the tomb exists, the legend of Gilgamesh continues to speak to something deeply human, our desire to outlast death, to leave behind a legacy that water, sand, and time cannot erase. He sought immortality through the gods and failed, yet through his story, he achieved a different kind of eternity. And perhaps that is the final irony. While his physical tomb remains hidden beneath the river's embrace, his name endures longer than any stone monument ever could. As long as we search for him beneath the Euphrates or within ourselves, Gilgamesh still lives. In the dry soil of northern China, beneath layers of forgotten dynasties, archaeologists unearthed something that would rewrite history: the oracle bones. At first glance, they appear unremarkable, cracked animal shoulder blades and fragments of turtle shells. But upon closer inspection, the faint carvings on their surfaces whisper tales of kings, gods, wars, and the very birth of the Chinese written language. These bones, dating back more than 3,000 years to the Shang dynasty, are the oldest known records of Chinese civilization, and perhaps the earliest physical evidence of organized thought record-keeping and what we might call science in the ancient world. What do you think? Were the oracle bones merely tools of divination? Or could they be proof that ancient civilizations already understood the science behind fire, heat, and materials? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Each oracle bone carries questions, literal questions carved into its surface by royal diviners. The Shang kings, who ruled from the city of Yin, near modern-day Anyang, used these bones to ask their ancestors and deities for guidance. Will it rain tomorrow? Should we wage war on the neighboring tribe? Will the queen bear a son? These were not simple superstitions. They were matters of state, of survival, and of legacy. The process was methodical. A question was inscribed onto the polished bone or turtle shell. Then the diviner applied intense heat to its underside using a metal rod. The bone would crack under the stress, producing branching lines that spread like lightning through ancient ivory. The diviner, trained through years of ritual and experience, would then interpret the shape and direction of these cracks as answers from the heavens. To modern eyes, this may appear to be pure mysticism, but there is something far more fascinating hidden beneath the ritual itself, a mastery of heat structure and observation that seems impossibly advanced for its time. Modern researchers examining these bones under microscopes have noticed something astonishing. The cracks are consistent, symmetrical, and controlled. They are not random fractures caused by careless burning, they are engineered. Each line follows predictable stress paths, almost as if the diviners understood the physics of expansion and fracture centuries before science gave those principles names. Tests have shown that the Shang artisans used precise temperature control, heating the bone to an ideal range of 780–900 degrees Celsius, hot enough to create the clean branching cracks they desired, but not so hot as to destroy the bone or the inscriptions. Such accuracy suggests a deep empirical knowledge of materials, how bone density reacts to fire, how moisture affects its resilience, and how different animal bones respond to stress. Some researchers even suggest that the diviner's skill bordered on experimental science. They likely practiced with hundreds of bones to observe how cracks formed under various conditions, noting which methods produced the clearest responses. Over generations, this empirical wisdom evolved into a complex craft, half ritual, half science. It is this combination that makes the oracle bones one of the most mysterious technological achievements of the Bronze Age. Every line, every fracture on the surface of an oracle bone is more than a random break. It is a coded message. Scholars studying their geometry have found patterns of symmetry, as if the diviners were not merely reading chaos, but seeking structured signs. Some bones display crack networks that mirror each other, suggesting intentional alignment to certain symbolic orientations, perhaps toward the sun constellations or the cardinal directions. In this light, the oracle bone ritual begins to resemble a primitive scientific instrument, a way of testing the unknown using repeatable methods. The bones, heated and cracked, became both an interface and a record. They captured the interaction between nature fire and bone and human interpretation, reading and meaning. When we imagine a Shang priest standing before a blazing altar, heating the bone until it split with a sharp echoing snap, we are not merely witnessing superstition, we are watching one of humanity's earliest attempts to understand cause and effect. The most extraordinary aspect is that the Shang diviners seemed to possess a working knowledge of thermodynamics, even if they did not call it that. They knew, for example, that gradual heating produces smaller controlled cracks, while sudden exposure to high heat creates violent, unpredictable fractures. They exploited this knowledge to tune the bone like a scientific instrument. In modern laboratories, engineers use the same principles when stress testing materials, applying heat, measuring fractures, and interpreting structural changes. Yet here, over 3 millennia ago, an ancient priest did the same thing, not for science, but for faith. How did they acquire this understanding? Some scholars believe it was the result of generations of careful trial and error passed down orally through the priestly class. Others suspect that this technology may have stemmed from metalworking knowledge, since the Shang were exceptional bronze workers. Controlling heat for casting metal might have taught them how to manipulate bone and shell in similar ways. Whatever the origin, the precision is undeniable, and it challenges our assumptions about what primitive civilizations could achieve. Beyond the ritual and the cracks, the oracle bones represent something more profound, an early form of data recording. Each bone was not only used for divination, but was also inscribed afterward with the question, the interpreted answer, and the final outcome. Over time, thousands of such records accumulated. In a sense, the Shang priests were collecting data, comparing predictions to real-world events. Did it rain after the oracle predicted rain? Did the king's army win the battle foretold by the cracks? The answers were noted. This suggests that the ancient Chinese may have been performing systematic observation, perhaps even early forms of pattern recognition and correlation. This practice, combining empirical observation with spiritual interpretation, may have been one of the earliest steps toward the scientific method, a blending of mysticism and measurable outcomes. Even after a century of study, many mysteries remain unsolved. Some bones appear to have been carved with microscopic precision, implying tools far sharper than what was believed possible in the Bronze Age. Others were made from unidentified animal species, and a few turtle shells are unnaturally large, suggesting they came from creatures no longer known to exist. Equally puzzling is how such a sophisticated system vanished. When the Zhou dynasty replaced the Shang, the oracle bone practice disappeared almost overnight. Did a shift in ideology suppress the old divination traditions? Or was there a deliberate effort to conceal certain knowledge, perhaps the technological secrets behind the process? Over 150,000 oracle bones unearthed in Anyang have become the earliest foundation of Chinese writing. Yet their meaning goes far beyond language. The cracks carved into bone reveal that ancient humans already knew how to observe, experiment, and record. Within what seemed like a ritual of superstition, they unknowingly laid the first stones of scientific thought where faith and reason met amid the fire and smoke of the ancient world. When we gaze upon the dark, burned surface of an oracle bone today, we are not only reading the questions of an ancient king, we are glimpsing the dawn of technological thought. Each crack is a fragment of forgotten knowledge, a spark of intelligence that bridged faith and logic, mystery and measurement. And as modern science continues to study these bones under microscopes and scanners, the same question that haunted the Shang diviners still echoes through time. Were they seeking the will of the gods or the laws of nature itself? Hidden on the uninhabited island of Staffa off the rugged coast of Scotland lies one of the most extraordinary natural formations on Earth, Fingal's Cave. Its towering basalt columns, dark and symmetrical, rise like the organ pipes of a colossal cathedral carved by something far older and far more patient than humankind itself. For centuries, poets, painters, and scientists have stood in awe before this wonder, unsure whether they were looking at the product of geology or the fingerprint of some forgotten god. If you were standing before Fingal's Cave, with its perfectly shaped columns as if carved by a god, would you believe it's a masterpiece of nature or a remnant of an ancient civilization? Share your thoughts in the comments below. At first glance, Fingal's Cave looks like an architectural masterpiece, the work of an ancient civilization lost to time. The cave stretches about 85 meters deep and 23 meters high, composed entirely of geometrically perfect hexagonal basalt columns, each so precise that they fit together like pieces of a giant stone puzzle. These columns were not laid by human hands. They were born from fire. Around 60 million years ago, during the Paleogene period, Scotland was a landscape of molten chaos. Magma from deep within the Earth's crust pushed upward through fractures in the bedrock. When this molten basalt finally reached the surface and began to cool, it did so slowly and evenly, contracting as it solidified. The result was something astonishing: natural hexagonal cracks formed by the physical laws of cooling lava, producing pillars of perfect symmetry. What makes Fingal's Cave truly mysterious is how mathematically exact these shapes appear. The columns are not irregular or chaotic. They follow a strict geometric order, most of them six-sided, some with 5 or 7 sides, as though nature itself had studied architecture. Each column measures roughly 50 to 60 centimeters in diameter and rises vertically from the ocean floor to form an unbroken wall of stone. It's almost impossible to believe that random physical processes could produce something so structured, so intentional. Many early visitors refused to accept a natural explanation. When explorers in the 18th century first entered the cave, they believed it must have been carved by ancient Celts, Romans, or even giants. Indeed, the legend of the giant Fingal gave the cave its name. In Gaelic folklore, Fingal, or Fionn mac Cumhail, in Irish mythology, was a warrior giant who built a causeway across the sea to Ireland to fight his rival Benandonna. When the two giants decided to end their feud, the bridge was destroyed, leaving behind two remnants: Giant's Causeway in Northern Ireland and Fingal's Cave in Scotland. Strangely, the myth fits perfectly with geological reality. The two sites are indeed made of the same type of basalt, formed during the same volcanic event, and share the same hexagonal structure. Even modern geologists find it mesmerizing that two identical formations lie hundreds of kilometers apart, connected by a legend that predates scientific explanation by centuries. Standing before Fingal's Cave, one feels the sheer discipline of nature's design. Every column rises straight, and even as if placed by an invisible mason's hand. The entrance forms a perfect archway that seems to echo the proportions of classical temples, Doric, solemn and timeless. The precision of these columns inspired early visitors to describe the site as a cathedral built not by man, but by the earth itself. The symmetry continues even inside the cave, where the floor is paved with the tops of columns, some fractured and staggered like uneven steps, allowing visitors to walk deep into the heart of the basalt structure, provided they are willing to brave the constant waves that crash and roar against the stone. The relationship between fire and water gives Fingal's Cave a haunting duality. Born from volcanic heat, it now lies half-submerged in the cold Atlantic, where the ocean's pulse has sculpted its interior into smooth, rippling surfaces. The walls reflect light in shifting tones, gray, green, and black, and when sunlight strikes the waves at the right angle, the interior glows with an ethereal blue light. The sound of the sea inside the cavern completes the illusion. Waves strike the columns and echo in harmonic reverberations that resemble the notes of a vast organ. The result is what many call the music of the stones. That music enchanted countless minds. The German composer Felix Mendelssohn, after visiting the cave in 1829, was so overwhelmed by its natural harmony that he later translated it into sound, his famous orchestral piece, the Hebrides Overture, Fingal's Cave. For the Victorians, the cave became a symbol of the sublime, the meeting point between the terrifying and the beautiful, the rational and the mystical. Artists like J.M.W. Turner painted it in glowing hues of amber and storm blue, while poets like Wordsworth and Keats compared it to the ruins of a divine palace swallowed by the sea. Even Queen Victoria once sailed past its entrance, calling it a cathedral of the ocean. Yet beneath all the romanticism lies an equally profound scientific mystery. The precise formation of basalt columns, not only here, but in places like Iceland, Northern Ireland, and the American Midwest, continues to fascinate geologists. Why does cooling basalt break into hexagons rather than random cracks? Why such uniformity across vast distances? Experiments have shown that when a substance cools evenly from a molten state, the stresses distribute in a way that favors hexagonal cracking, because it allows for maximum strength with minimum energy, the same reason honeycombs take the same shape in nature. But even with this explanation, the perfection of Fingal's cave remains astonishing. The human eye instinctively recognizes order, and here, that order feels almost deliberate, as if nature were revealing its hidden mathematics. Another lingering enigma lies beneath the waves. Many believe that a submerged basalt ridge may still connect Fingal's cave with Giant's Causeway, the bridge of legend that once linked Scotland and Ireland. While sonar mapping has revealed hints of underwater formations, no full geological survey has confirmed a continuous structure. Whether this sunken pathway truly exists or not, the myth persists, blurring the line between folklore and science, between imagination and truth. Fingal's cave is where geometry, sound, and myth unite, a perfect bridge between science and legend. Born from volcanic fire, yet shaped by the sea, its basalt columns reveal how chaos can briefly become art. Every stone tells a silent story of heat, time, and transformation, proving that even destruction can create beauty. As the tide rises and echoes fill the cave, one wonders, are those voices the call of ancient giants, or simply the earth singing its first song beneath the Atlantic waves? Deep in the wind-swept steppes of southern Russia and Ukraine, archaeologists unearthed something that would forever alter our understanding of ancient myth and reality. Beneath layers of soil and centuries of silence lay the tomb of the Amazon warriors, a discovery that blurred the boundary between legend and history. For millennia, the Amazons had been dismissed as fantasy, fierce female warriors born of Greek imagination, riding into battle and defying the rules of a patriarchal world. But as the excavations progressed, the ground began to whisper a different story, one written not in myth, but in bone, metal, and blood. In burial mounds scattered across Pokrovka, Voronezh, and the Don River basin, archaeologists found the remains of women buried with the unmistakable symbols of warfare: iron swords, bronze-tipped arrows, spears, shields, and even horses laid beside their bodies. Some skeletons bore clear marks of battle-healed fractures, blade cuts, and deformities in leg bones from years of horseback riding. The evidence was undeniable. These were not priestesses or nobles. They were warriors, and more remarkably, they were women who had lived and died by the sword. This finding shook the academic world. For the first time, the existence of real Amazons, women who fought, hunted, and led alongside men, seemed not only possible, but historically attested. Yet as scientists delved deeper, one mystery became increasingly captivating: who were these women, and what kind of society had given birth to them? If you lived in the Scythian world, where women rode into battle beside men, how do you think that society would differ from ours today? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Modern DNA and isotope analysis revealed a striking truth. These warrior women were part of the Scythian and Sarmatian cultures, nomadic peoples who once ruled the Eurasian steppe from the 7th century BCE to the 3rd century CE. Unlike the sedentary civilizations of Greece or Persia, the Scythians lived on horseback, mastering the art of archery and mobility. They were fierce, elusive, and feared by empires. But what set them apart most was their radical social structure. Archaeological evidence suggests that Scythian women were not confined to domestic life. Instead, they trained in combat rode horses, hunted large game, and often went to war. In some tribal groups, up to 30% of graves containing weapons belonged to women. This proportion is staggering and speaks of a society where gender was not a boundary for valor. The Amazon warriors unearthed from these tombs were not exceptions. They were products of a culture that honored strength over gender. Their bodies were buried with the same rituals as male warriors, horses, weapons, jewelry, and drinking cups signifying honor and social equality. Some were buried with children, implying that motherhood and warfare coexisted in their world. Others rested with elaborate gold ornaments and ceremonial gear, suggesting roles not only as soldiers, but as leaders and spiritual figures. The Scythians were a nomadic confederation, not a single unified empire. Their power lay in mobility and unity through shared beliefs. Women in this context might have been crucial in maintaining tribal identity, acting as guardians of both spiritual and military order. Some historians even suggest that the legendary Queen Tomyris, who defeated Cyrus the Great of Persia, could have been one of these Scythian rulers, a living reflection of the Amazon spirit. The daily life of Scythian women was one of discipline and endurance. They lived in portable felt tents called yurts, moved across the plains with vast herds, and depended on hunting as much as herding. Girls learned to ride almost as soon as they could walk. They were trained to handle composite bows, spears, and lassos. This early training explains the physical traits seen in their skeletal remains: broad shoulders, curved femurs from constant riding, and muscular arms from drawing powerful bows. To survive the harsh steppe, the Scythians could not afford rigid gender divisions. Every capable hand was a warrior's hand. The survival of the tribe relied on shared skill, courage, and loyalty. This necessity fostered one of the earliest forms of gender parity in recorded history, a natural equality born from survival, not ideology. Their belief system mirrored this balance. Scythian mythology, unlike the Greek pantheon, dominated by male gods, revered female deities of war, fertility, and protection. Archaeologists have found images of winged goddesses holding weapons and mirrors engraved with scenes of women in ritual combat, indicating that the feminine divine was inseparable from warfare and destiny. The Greek world, encountering the Scythians during their northern expeditions, was both fascinated and terrified by them. Stories of fearless women who fought like men spread quickly, morphing into the myth of the Amazons. Herodotus described them as the Androctones, men-slayers. The Greeks depicted them as exotic and dangerous, yet strangely admirable. Their tales inspired countless sculptures, from the Amazonomachy friezes of the Parthenon to the heroic duels of Theseus and Penthesilea. Yet the truth buried beneath the steppe tells a different story. The Amazons were not mythical invaders. They were Scythian women, raised in a world where the horizon was limitless and the bow was an extension of the self. The myths perhaps were not inventions, but reflections distorted through the lens of Greek patriarchy stories, told by outsiders who could not comprehend a society where women held swords as readily as men. Excavations reveal that the tombs of Amazon warriors were not mere burials, but ceremonial monuments. Their graves often contained mirrors, incense burners, amulets, and sacred symbols, suggesting roles as priestesses of a warrior cult. Many were buried facing the rising sun, a sign of rebirth, with hands gripping weapons as if ready to rise again for battle. These rituals might represent the Scythian concept of dual life and death, where the warrior's soul continued fighting in the afterlife. Horses were sacrificed and buried alongside them, symbolizing eternal mobility across the steppes of the next world. Such customs reveal a spirituality woven deeply into warfare, a conviction that fighting and faith were intertwined. Advancements in CT scanning, 3D modeling, and isotope tracing have opened new chapters in this mystery. Researchers discovered that these women traveled vast distances from Central Asia to the Black Sea, engaging in trade and warfare alike. Chemical traces in their bones showed a diet rich in horse meat and fermented milk, evidence of their nomadic life. Even more intriguing metallurgical studies revealed complex forging techniques in their weaponry, suggesting the Scythians possessed technology far ahead of what Greek writers credited them for. The Amazon graves are thus more than archaeological curiosities. They are windows into a society that redefined gender and power thousands of years ago. Despite decades of research, some mysteries endure. Were the Amazons a single organized female caste, or simply the visible elite among Scythian tribes? Why did their tradition vanish after the 3rd century CE? Did cultural assimilation, warfare, or climate change erase their legacy? And perhaps most hauntingly, how many more Amazon warriors lie buried beneath the endless grass, their stories untold? The tomb of the Amazon warriors reminds us that strength and courage were never limited to men. These women were not myths, but ancestors of freedom, riding through history with one message that still echoes today: strength knows no gender.